In this video, I'm going to walk you through my design process and how I came up with my summer vacation shirt I'm calling Summer Sun. It took 3 rounds and 10 shirts total. After the first round, I'm going to walk you through my thoughts on what I liked, what I didn't like, and then take that information and make some design changes for the next round. We're going to do that for the second round as well, so that in the third round, when I make 5 more shirts, they all come out amazing. I'm going to show you them. I love them. My name's Nate. I'm going to do my best as always to try and keep track and record all of the details and information, but I'll probably forget something and I'll probably make a mistake or two, especially in this video. I made a big one. Let's jump into it. The inspiration for this shirt came from my sister-in-law and nieces. They wanted some summer vacation shirts that were bright and cheerful, so I decided to use orange, yellow, and chartreuse, some of the brightest colors I have. As I'll use the same colors in all 3 shirts, I wanted to test 3 different spiral designs just for fun. Now, before getting into this, let's talk about the prep work, which is critical. As I'll be using Dharma Trading Procion Dyes, these shirts are 100% cotton. They've been washed to remove any factory softeners and dried with no dryer sheets. It's important to start off with just clean cotton. Then the shirts were soaked in a soda ash solution of 1 cup soda ash to 1 gallon water for about 30 minutes. They were wrung out and spun till damp in my washer. That soda ash soak is a critical step as it raises the pH of the shirt, which is a requirement for the Procion dyes to chemically bond so that they're color fast with the shirt. So it might seem like a lot of prep work, but it's really not that complicated, and all it takes is a little bit extra time. All right, let's get into making the spirals. For my spirals, I'm going to be using a plant saucer with a hole in the middle with a small locking hemostat plier to help me, as this is a great way to get decently good spirals quickly. It's not perfect, but that's okay. I like to start with the shirts inside out with the front of the shirt down. The side of the shirt next to the table will always have better looking spiral pleats and will look the neatest after tie-dyeing. Inside out is to help minimize any small stray dye or spotting kind of like randomly falling on the shirt. If you have any tips on how to make great spirals, leave a comment. I'm always trying to learn how to both make better spirals and also make them faster. I've found pulling the pleats from the edge can help as you spiral the shirts. Just don't pull too hard or twist too hard while you have the pliers in the shirt, as you can damage the shirt. Ask me how I know, Nathan. Ask me. Yeah, it's nothing like opening up a shirt and seeing a giant hole in the middle because you were a little bit too rambunctious. I also like to tie my shirts up with sewing thread, as I found it's easier to keep the shirt in a consistent circular shape, and also the dye application is easier. Rubber bands can force the shirt to take on a different shape you might not want, and also when you're putting powdered dye on top of rubber bands and you accidentally touch a rubber band, it can fling the dye elsewhere, and I'm not a fan. So now, after tying the shirts, I like to leave them out overnight to dry as much as possible in front of a fan. The idea being, when the ice melts and dissolves into the dye, the shirt will wick and absorb that dye water into all the folds of the shirt for better dye movement and penetration. As mentioned, I'll be doing a Super Sunny palette. Dharma's number 2 bright yellow, number 6 deep orange, and number 47 chartreuse. As you can see, that chartreuse, it splits into yellow and green when ice dyed, which might not provide enough contrast, but let's give it a shot. As with all my projects, I will weigh out the dye as a percentage of the dry shirt. With this design, I used 4.25% total dye by weight of the shirt. This is key to ensuring that the 3 shirts are going to match in vibrancy and color because they're different sizes. And I want them to match because I want them to, when they wear it, for people to know that they're like doing a thing. Now, the first design is what we'll consider to be the classic standard layout. It is where each color will have the same amount of real estate with the 2 pizza pie slices directly opposite each other. The dye will be placed as accurately as possible with no overlap. The second design I'm going to call an overlap experiment. It starts with the same design as the standard, but does one change, and that is it overlaps the dye. When applying each pizza pie slice of dye, one side will stay true to the edge of the pie, while the other side will sprinkle with the dye past the edge, with the idea being it'll encourage the dye to combine and blend with each other. Well, that's my hope anyways. So for example, the yellow into the chartreuse a little bit, the chartreuse into the orange a little, and the orange into the yellow, and then repeat it until we go all around. I'm very curious how this one will turn out. Now this third design, very excited about this one. I'm gonna call it a gradient twist. There's gonna be some bigger changes here. First, the chartreuse is gonna cover half the shirt in 2 equal pizza pie slices. The other 2 slices will be gradient of color from yellow at the center to orange at the edge. I'm very curious how this one will turn out. Now, after sprinkling a bit of soda ash directly onto the shirt, I placed a layer of ice over the dye. We are not going to incline these shirts, and so they're going to be flat and horizontal, and they're not going to be laying in the mud. That dye is going to go into a bin at the bottom. That extra sprinkle of soda ash is to help the shirt maintain that high pH that's required as the ice water melts and moves through the shirt. Now, once the ice is melted and most of the dye has been dissolved, so you might see a little bit on the top, it's fine. It's time to batch the shirts. Now, what does that mean to batch? It means we need to keep the shirts damp for at least 24 hours at room temperature. This is to help ensure that the dye chemically bonds with the shirt, and it needs time and temperature. The warmer the temperature, the less time you need. Room temperature seems to work great for a lot of people, so that's what we're going to use. It takes about 24 hours at room temperature. And because I'm using bins, I just covered the bins and went on with my day. You can obviously also use plastic wrap, Ziploc bags, which I've done with great success. All right, let's get to the best part. That's the wet reveal. This is when we get to see if the shirts in our designs are gonna turn out or not. For our standard design, as expected, we got really tight spirals going to the center of the shirt. As of right now, this one came out really well with the color combinations. At this point, my only criticism is the yellow gets lost by the orange the closer we get to the center of the shirt, which would be a design opportunity for the next round. All right, let's look at the second one. I, of course, forgot to hit record when I started revealing it, so here it is. This one is also very cool and has provided some really neat gradients of colors and mixing. This is the overlap one. So this spiral is tight to the center. And again, my only real criticism to start off with is that the orange is overpowering the yellow the closer to the center of the shirt. All right, let's look at this third one. Oh, wow, look at that, my head. Wow, that's not what you're trying to watch here. Nate, get your act together. This shirt is also very cool, as pretty much any tie-dye shirt is, but it's not what I was going for or envisioning. I'm not sure exactly what happened here, but as you could probably already guess, my criticism is going to be that that orange is very powerful and it's overpowering the yellow. If I try this design again, I'm going to really need to think about how to get a better gradient, which is something I am eager to do. As always, wet reveals are a lot of fun, but we will not know what we actually have till we fully rinse and wash the shirts. My rinse process is pretty simple. Rinse in cold water to remove as much soda ash and dye, maybe for like a minute. It doesn't take that long. Then I squirt some Dawn dish soap into the shirt and put it in a tub with warm to hot water. Agitate it a little bit and just let it sit for like 20 minutes or so. I know it's hard to like let it sit, but just let it sit. And then you come back in 20 minutes, dump out that dirty water, and repeat that process maybe 1 or 2 more times. It's going to save your water bill. If you don't do a lot of tie-dye, don't worry about it. Just rinse it under hot water. Once the water runs clear, wash it in your washing machine. Use whatever washing detergent you have. Don't worry about it. I went and bought some Dharma textile detergent. If you want to buy that, go for it. If not, you're doing it at home, just use your regular washing machine washing stuff. Then dry it. All right, let's look at a couple pictures of the finished shirts. Wow, these are bright. I love the colors and how they play together. That yellow and the orange, they didn't change in vibrancy. I love them. But after the wash, the chartreuse has lightened up to be a paler color of itself when wet, and that's not what I was expecting. I know things lighten up, but I wasn't expecting the difference to be so drastic from the yellow and orange. Now, all the shirts are awesome. However, if I wanted to improve the design, let's take the standard spiral and see if we can make that even better. I need to pick one of these designs, and that's the one I'm going to do. For the second round, I not only wanted to improve the colors, I also wanted to improve the tying of the spiral with the goal of the pleats being as smooth as possible between each other. And I decided to try to use some chopsticks to help me with this. Now, these chopsticks, I don't like them, when it comes to eating with them because they're too smooth. And if you try to pick up a piece of food, you almost have to try too hard and you squish the food. And if you don't, then the food falls out. It did not work well for eating. But in this situation, it was fantastic because they slid in and out of those pleated folds really easily because they're smooth, and it helped take out all the wrinkles in those folds. So I'm hoping this is going to turn out well in the end. Now, as it took me way too long to make these spirals, about 30 minutes each, let's fast forward to talk about the design changes I'm going to make. Let's measure out the dye, and before we do that, let's talk real quick about the colors since we're iterating. We're going to keep the orange the same, we're going to bump up the yellow, and bump up the chartreuse green. Now, one of the iterations, we're only going to bump up the yellow and the chartreuse green by 25%. We're going to start off at a 4.25% dye by weight, and then we're going to bump up after that. So we're going to keep the orange the same because I do like the color orange on those shirts. Now, the second shirt, this is going to be the large shirt. We're going to add a little bit of electric green to the chartreuse. We're going to do a mix. And what we're going to do is also bump up the yellow by a quarter, bump up the total green by a quarter. But in that mixture of these two, we're going to do 75% chartreuse and just 0.25% electric green. So now the large shirt weighed 213 grams, the smaller shirt 169 grams, which at a 4.25% dye by weight for the medium shirt, that's 7.2 grams, and the large shirt 9 grams basically. So now a third, we're going to basically assign a third of the dye by weight to each color. So the orange is a third, the yellow is a third, and this will be a third. Let's get to doing this. You can see the color chart here. We have the orange, the yellow, then to really the chartreuse green, which when combined with this might make for some interesting browns. We'll see. It's an experiment. We're going to try it. I have my mask. Let's get started. And let's do this. All right, so what's the point in weighing out the dyes is a question you might ask, and I'm going to respond by saying that's a fantastic question. Let's think about it for a second. Think like a baker who's baking bread. That ratio of water to flour is critical in the difference between making sandwich loaf bread and focaccia bread. Both are delicious, fantastic, and amazing, but they're different. And so weighing out your dyes as a percentage of the weight of the dry shirt allows you to know what you're going to kind of end up with at the end. Are you going to get more of a pastel color, which is something you might be going for, or something more vibrant, more intense, which is something you might be going for? So give it a shot. I mean, if you don't measure out your dyes and you're trying to improve your color combinations in your process, try it out. You might like it. Now, as you'll see shortly, I like to keep track of everything, try to be as accurately as possible. However, there is a weakest link in this process, and no surprise, that is me. Specifically, me trying to apply the dye as evenly as possible on large shirt that we're doing here with the green mix. I ran out of the dye, which shouldn't have happened, but it did. And so I had to make more of that mix on the spot. What was great is because I knew the ratio and I weighed it out, I was able to pivot on the fly, make more super fast, and complete the shirt. And I did keep track of how much extra I made, and that ended up being an extra 1.1 grams, which was a total increase in the green area of 62%, around 2/3. Now, as Bob Ross said, we don't make mistakes. We just make happy accidents. In this case, this happy accident was pretty awesome, as you'll see. I really liked it. Now, we did the exact same soda ash under the ice. We melted the ice and then we batched, and let's jump into those reveals. Let's look at this first one. My apologies for the shirt not being perfectly in frame. Nate, get your act together. Not only did we get a really nice spiral here, but the pleated folds look really clean and clear, especially near the bottom of the shirt. And that spiral gets tight to the center. I'm really happy with my spiral here. The yellow next to the orange doesn't look as overpowered as much, and the chartreuse looks to be stronger. So that 25% increase overall, I think, was a step in the right direction. Let's take a look at the second shirt. This is the one where we boosted the yellow by 25%, and we did the green mix of 25 to 75% electric green to chartreuse. Now, right off the bat, we can see that green is much stronger. That quote unquote happy accident definitely made that the green really strong. And this spiral, again, I loved it tight to the center. The yellow is looking good with maybe one spiral maybe being overtaken by the green near the center. That might be more placement than the percentage of the dye. So now we know from the first round, this green is gonna lighten up after the wash. So let's do that and see how they turn out. Wow, here they are. That first one with only chartreuse in the green section came out wonderfully. I love this. We can see the color splits in the green with what we think is some turquoise peeking through. The yellow does go to the center of the spiral. The orange is not as overpowering. What do you think? My initial thought process is maybe let's bump up the green like we did with the other one. That could be something to do in the next round. Let's look at the second shirt. Wow, super happy with this one. This one I just head over heels with. That addition of the electric green and the overall boost of 2/3 helps give that green an equal feeling of weight and vibrancy to the yellow and orange. When we zoom in on the center, it also looks like there's a crab floating in the ocean, which, you know, you always got to find that animal or face in the tie-dye. It's a perfect beach shirt. So now let's talk about what we're going to do differently in the next round. I was very happy with that, you know, quote unquote happy accident of bumping by 2/3. And so let's do that with the chartreuse and do a few more things in the next round. Now, before we get into round 3, I just want to say thank you for watching, and to those who subscribed, as well as those who let me know their thoughts in the comments. I read them all and I love them. It really does mean a lot to me, and I look forward to seeing your thoughts and making more videos for everyone. If you haven't subscribed yet, don't be shy, it's free. In addition, if you turn on YouTube notifications, you'll be the first to know when a new video drops. All right, let's get back to the video. I wasn't going to do a third round. However, we were all going on vacation, the extended family, and you know, we all had to have matching shirts for when we go to the beach, because you know, you got to do that thing for fun. And so we did a round 3 and we updated a few things and kept a couple things the same. This shirt is the exact same shirt as the electric green chartreuse mix. That is 25-75%, and it's bumped up by 2/3. You can see it came out beautifully. I love the center spiral with this turquoise here and this yellow turning into a little bit orange, the orange into red, and this green here, and it just looks fantastic. So that's this one, little, I think, a dragon in the center. So now let's look at the other one. This is the double XL. This is the exact same design. So the exact same color ratio, everything. As you can see, it matches perfectly. It's wonderful. I love it. So that control works. This is a fantastic ratio. Let's talk about the next one. This one here is the chartreuse mix only. So there is no electric green added to this one. However, what we did is we bumped up the chartreuse to match what the mistake was in the second round. So this chartreuse green is bumped up by 2/3. And what I noticed is there's some fantastic brown colors. For example, I love how the orange and the yellow and the green here created what I call like a fire burning color. It's this brown, it makes it feel hot to me. And I love it. And you could see some great just color splits, especially down near the bottom. I love this. So this to me is a fantastic result here. My mother-in-law's happy with it. Let's talk about my kids' shirts. So they had a choice and they chose to do an electric green and chartreuse mix. One child chose 30-70% split and the other 50-50. So let's see if you can guess which one is which. Both the same size shirt, but one seems to be taller. That is crazy. I just noticed that. That is wacky. Definitely one is longer than the other. I don't know, Gildan, you gotta get your act together. Both small, neither youth, whatever. Okay, so this is the 50-50 mix. This is the 30-70 mix. And if you look at the 50-50 mix, I love this. I love this spiral. This green here with the blue reminds me of ocean colors, and then the heat of the sun here, a little crab in the middle, fantastic. And then this one here, I love it. I love it. You get some great color gradients and the colors going through. You get that brown again that resembles like a heat color that matches the green and the orange and the yellow, because they're all the colors together, and you get some interesting, possible faces there. I don't know. Let me know what you all think. If you want one, I'll make you one. I have an Etsy store with them. Thank you for watching.